What's up, everybody? Welcome to Edible Ecosystems, the carbon cycle and compost. So we're going to talk about the carbon cycle, human impact, what is compost, and how to start composting. So let's start by talking about the carbon cycle. Carbon is one of the building blocks of life. So without carbon, we wouldn't be able to make energy in our bodies or build our DNA. All organic matter, anything that comes from the earth that's alive, has carbon. When these living things die, they return to the soil to be processed by other living organisms. So like fungi, bacteria, insects, and microbes help break down organic matter. It goes into the soil and eventually gets transported to the ocean as dissolved organic matter. The ocean's animals who die, like whales and fish and sharks and stuff, they contribute to the carbon cycle by sinking to the bottom of the ocean and getting processed by a multitude of organisms. That can include like deep sea worms and like blobfish and stuff that lives in the sediment, all kinds of weird stuff down there. But they basically get processed, and the carbon left over settles into the sediments and collects as nutrients over time. Fire also processes living things into organic matter. The indigenous use techniques to burn specific parts of the ecosystem to add carbon into the soils and gave them a better harvest the next year. Photosynthesis would also not be possible since plants breathe in CO2. So without carbon, none of anything on Earth would exist. Animals couldn't respirate or breathe without the oxygen provided from plants. So, the carbon cycle. Okay, so we can't talk about the carbon cycle without talking about how humans have contributed to it. So, the biggest impact we've made to the carbon cycle is habitat loss. We've cut millions of acres of forests, prairies, wetlands, swamps, and many other ecosystem types in search of oil and burning fossil fuels. This disrupts the natural carbon cycle by removing a large carbon sink. So all of those forests, those grasses, those swamps and wetlands especially, they collect carbon out of the atmosphere and help keep our planet cool. The ocean does this too on a larger scale, but us cutting everything down definitely makes the situation 100 times worse. The second biggest way we've interrupted the carbon cycle is through the burning of fossil fuels, which has major implications for ocean acidification, extreme weather, sea level rise, pollution, and health issues. I'm not really going to dig too deep into that because I could talk for literally hours, but the main idea here is to realize we have had a substantial impact on the world. And this doesn't mean that we can't reverse the damage. We have to be a part of the solution in order for things to get better, and it starts with every individual. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I talk to people about ecology facts, because I want people to know how cool our Earth is and that we can actually do our part to help it. It's not impossible. And while I'm on that, I'm not placing blame on individuals for climate change. We do what we have to do to survive here. But we can come together as communities and push for policies and changes that benefits the environment and us. We are the only species with the knowledge to be able to fix this issue. A lot of people think that conservation and helping the planet is just by taking large swaths of area and just saying leave it alone. And that actually doesn't work because of invasive species that we've put there. So we as humans have to be a part of the solution. Anyway, I have hope that we can and will make the world better. But enough on that. So let's talk about compost, which is the cool part of the carbon cycle and the useful part to us. So basically, compost is the decaying organic matter that will feed your soil. It's the carbon cycle that you can watch happen in real time too. There's a few ways that you can start composting with different bins and stuff like that, but I'm not going to get into that too much. The basics are essentially the same. You want to add things into your compost pile that add carbon. So this little chart right here shows what kind of things are really high in carbon. And those things include autumn leaves, straw, wood chips, sawdust, bark, mixed paper, newspaper, or even cardboard. So the cool thing about that is that you have tons of free carbon every time you mow, or the leaves fall, or those old boxes that you have somewhere for no reason. You can use them in your garden as compost. So the other element you want to go for is nitrogen. This is a key nutrient for soils and plants. So a good rule of thumb for adding in nitrogen is veggies, coffees, grass, and manure, but no dairy or meat. Dairy and meat is going to not only cause your pile to smell really bad, but it's also going to draw in predators. And if you live in a place that has domesticated animals that live outside, you don't really want that. So let's go over how to start composting. So first, you're gonna need to choose a bin or a compost site. So composting is basically free unless you get a bin. But there are benefits and drawbacks to both. I have both. I have a on-ground site and a bin. And the bin is really easy for kitchen scraps and stuff because I can just take it out and not have to worry about it. The larger compost pile is great for sticking in larger sticks and leaves and stuff that don't really fit into the small compost bin. And our town doesn't really like people having compost piles on the ground, but just don't tell on me. So the second thing, you want to start with sticks as a base layer. And then you want to start your layers with leaves and grass, and then your nitrogen elements, so like your veggies, coffee grounds, things like that. And then just keep layering. And then you adjust as necessary. Like I was saying, for bins, they tend to collect water, so adding sawdust and turning the bin can help you avoid the smells associated with that. With a pile on the ground in a confined area, you don't have to worry as much, but I will note that if you're using manure in your compost pile from cows or horses or anything like that, your compost pile will spontaneously combust if you don't turn it. So that's because of buildup of a couple of different chemicals, including methane, and it doesn't even take sitting out in the sun to spontaneously combust, so just be careful about that. But for everyone else, you don't have to turn the compost pile, except if you're using a bin. So yeah, that's been composting.